I wanted to make a video about feeling the airplane and kind of understanding that there is some nuance to the rules that have been imposed upon you by your flight school. Not banking more than this, not doing more than this speed, putting in flaps exactly at this time, only pulling power out when you get to this fence. There's all these really strict rules that the flight school has imposed upon you to keep you safe, and there is a place for that, and it does have some merit to it. However, I've noticed that there's this obsession with these rules that students have, and even some CFIs, and I've had to train this out of myself, where you need to understand that that fence post that is always at this place, everyone has that point, right? When I see that mountain right there, I will bank. When I cross this fence or this part of the threshold, I always reduce power. You're not always going to have those indicators. You're not always going to have those hints, which is where my philosophy comes in, and Yoel's here, where you need to learn how to feel the plane. You need to be a part of the plane. The airplane is always trying to communicate you. It's telling you what it needs. I need a little bit more back pressure. I need a little bit more forward pressure. I need a little bit more crosswind correction, more power, less power. And when you shut off that part of your brain that feels the airplane, you're basically telling the plane to shut up. I'm in control. Get out of my way. You should be in a relationship with that plane. That plane is needs you and you need it. And when you over control the aircraft and when you kind of like close your heart off to it, I'm not even joking, you will fly worse. So I want to watch this video real quick, only a minute of it. This is from Yoel Gilman's. I love this guy's channel. I actually started talking to him via email. And a really nice guy, really has a strong discipline for what he does. So let's watch the first minute of this, and then I'll kind of give you guys some tips and tricks that I use for my students.
Feel the airplane.
I'm just gonna feel it.
Excellent.
That's my goal. That's how I used to fly.
Good.
Like, didn't even care what. I mean, obviously, when it said big gust, then I cared. But
What a beautiful
okay, well that too.
panel.
There you go. Just feel the airplane. Feel the airplane.
So I feel like get approved.
I would keep it a touch higher here.
Yep.
Right, just kind of like you feel you want to stay a little bit further away from these. There you go. Good,
Power's coming back.
good. Just don't be afraid. Do it now. Get a feel for what that. See what that does?
Yeah.
Gives you great control. Then some right rudder.
Oh, little fell out.
Good. And then you want to keep the yoke
it
all the way back.
With a good landing. So Yoel in his wisdom, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, man. So Yoel in his wisdom here understands something that I think understanding this makes the difference between being a decent CFI and being a great CFI. And I had this epiphany about maybe last month, and maybe even during my training at some point, where I would tell my students, I need you to feel the airplane. You need to become a part of the airplane. And I tell them this story, and I'll tell you guys this now. There's this moment where I was about 40. Let me tell you, I was a late bloomer with landings. All right, I actually was terrible at landings for the longest time, and I just could not get it down. I was so bad at landings that I actually thought that this wasn't for me. And I remember having those moments where I'm like, if I can't land this plane, I'm spending money, time, energy. I'm disappointed. And I was like, this may be it. Well, in hindsight, that's a little bit naive, because I should have understood that I'd get it. My point is like, you get really caught up in those landings, and you're so focused on these rules that were given to you. Maintain this nose down attitude. When the cowl covers this part, when you cross the fence, like I said earlier, when you pass this tree. If you're a flight student or a CFI, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They have their place. Don't get me wrong. But I think the difference that was made in my flying is when I was coming in on final, and I was at 6.5 knots, good glide slope, and then all of a sudden, I'm still like 20 seconds away from landing. I felt, bear with me guys here, I know this is like a little maybe weird for some of you, but I felt my consciousness expand outwards into the wings. I could almost feel the center of pressure beneath my airfoil. There was like this line of communication as if I could understand the plane, and things just clicked right after that. And the human mind is very adaptive and it's very flexible. And you can imagine yourself as almost anything. If you sat there and you closed your eyes and you imagined yourself as a cat, okay, I have these whiskers and I'm going into this hole and I could feel the wall touching my whiskers. I could feel my paws. I could feel my tail. I can imagine myself as this lamp right here. I'm this black lamp with these glowing lights, and there's heat in the top of my head, and I'm watching. Like you can imagine yourself as literally anything you want. That's the power of the human mind. We do it every day, all day. And there was this moment where I imagined myself as a part of the airplane. I was an instrument in that airplane. I was the yoke. I was the power. I was the attitude indicator. I was everything in the plane all at once. And all of a sudden, I locked in like a cyborg, like, whoosh, and I was like, whoa, that was a weird feeling. And my landings were so much better after that because I went less. I understood in the very moment that there is some flexibility to these rules that we've put upon ourselves. There is some nuance to flying, and that nuance is feeling. You can feel the airplane. You could feel exactly what it wants from you. It is constantly trying to talk to you. And I think one of the biggest problems I see with students, and this is a part of the learning process, because they're scared, they're nervous, whatever, is that they over control. And I look at the students' hands and I could tell that they have a death grip on that yoke. And when I tell them, I'm like, hey, you are over controlling the aircraft and you're essentially shutting off that line of communication of that aircraft. You're being like, shut up, we're going to land this thing. And the aircraft just essentially, it's ironically going to do less of what you want because you're over controlling. So I tell my students, I want you to imagine, I ask them, I'm like, what's your most favorite animal? As like a baby, puppy, kitten, baby bird. One of my students said a baby seal is their favorite animal. And I was like, okay, I want you, every time you're coming into a final approach, think about a baby seal. And the baby seal is in your hand. And it's around the neck. When I say this out loud, it actually is quite hilarious. But it works. I'm like, I want you to imagine the yoke as the neck of a baby seal. Are you going to strangle that baby seal? No. So imagine that yoke. My point is it's so funny. The stuff that you have to say to make things make sense to students sometimes. My point is I'm trying to emphasize what's happening when they over control the aircraft. All right. There was another instance when I was with my student and we're doing turns around a point, and he was just getting pushed around by the wind because you need to adjust your bank angle based on ground speed, and that changes depending on which part of the radius that you're in. And he kept getting blown into the wind. And I was like, I wonder if this is going to help. And this is the moment I think I became less just a decent instructor that just was like 30 degrees, power 23, blah, blah, and understood that there was nuance to these rules and there was flexibility. And I turned off his attitude indicator and I was like, I want you to just look out the window, don't touch your power settings, and I want you to imagine a golden ring around this point and maintain this radius. And I want you to feel the aircraft. Don't worry about bank angles. Don't worry about power settings. Just maintain your altitude and give me a nice radius around this. He went from not being able to do this maneuver 4 or 5 times to nailing it on the first try because I emphasized to him the importance of feeling the aircraft and opening up the line of communication to that aircraft and constantly being organic and ever flowing with your thought processes. It's not just set that bank angle, hope to God that there's no wind and maybe you'll get it. No, everything is so fluid in aviation. Everything is constantly changing from one second to the next, and you need to be able to adapt with that. You need to move like water. All right, you need to be fluid. And that changed the way I flew, is when I had less of rules are the foundation. It's the basis of your training. And as you get more experience, you understand that there's spaces in between those rules that you can operate within that actually make you a better pilot. I want to be very clear. I'm not telling you to break these regs and rules that we have. I'm simply saying that you need to understand that sometimes these rules are in place for a reason, but there are moments when you could use different forms of those rules to your advantage. I feel like if you're a CFI, you would understand this. And I think getting caught up in these arbitrary rules that we set for ourselves is only, after a certain point, a detriment. So if you take nothing away from this video, I want you to understand this here. Next time you go and fly an aircraft, whatever it is, Cessna, Piper, Cherokee, whatever, I want you to think and feel and become the aircraft. Open yourself up to it, all right? And just become the airfoil, become the prop, become the plane. And I promise you, if you allow that to happen, you will become a better pilot. All right, guys, I hope you guys liked the video. This channel's been growing like crazy. We're at like 1.2 thousand subscribers now. It's amazing. And my whole goal in this channel is to eventually get to what this guy is doing, where I can fly private. I want to be a private flight instructor one day, and being able to hook up a GoPro in the back seat and do lessons just like these. And commentary is great. I'm loving it, but I want to do something a little bit more action driven, right? I want to show you guys actually what I'm doing when I'm adjusting my power, how I teach my students, lessons that I give them, mistakes that they're making. That's my ultimate goal. And we're going to monetize this channel and we're going to get there. And I'm going to be able to leverage those funds into renting a plane and creating more videos and buying film equipment like GoPros and stuff like that. That's my goal. I know it's going to happen. It's already happening. Okay, but yeah, you guys have been really amazing, and I just want to let you know that I've learned so much from you guys. Like, there's been things that I've said in videos where people are like, yeah, that's not wrong. However, this is a better way to put it. Or, no, mixture is actually going to be rich on takeoff when you're below 3,000 feet MSL. And that's something I forgot about because I'm always operating above 3,000 feet MSL and high density altitude. And then someone's like, okay, go look back at the peak. Like, my point is, you guys have taught me so much, and I really want to keep that open. And I love your comments, even the comments that are like, oh, you're dead wrong. This is why. I'm learning so much from this YouTube channel. I never expected it, and I hope you guys are learning something too. But nonetheless, I appreciate Yoel here for posting this video. I suggest you guys watch it. I'll leave a link below so you guys can subscribe and like to him. And I'll see you guys for the next one.